Hi, this is Attorney Mike Gravel coming to you from Las Vegas, and today we're going to look at Better Call Saul, Season 3, Episode 5. It's called Chicanery, and it's good stuff. Let's do it. Well, I intended to film all this in Vegas, but, Vegas happened. So this first clip is really good, and we go back to our veterinarian, who's also an underworld figure, and it sets up the favorite line of the episode.
There's barely any oxygen in that bag. You're suffocating her.
Her?
Yeah, just because you don't see swinging dicks doesn't mean you can't tell a boy fish from a girl fish.
Oh, yeah, see, now I can see the lipstick.
So then Jimmy and the veterinarian get down to real business. He's looking for somebody to help him with a job, and he knows that the veterinarian can do it. It's just kind of interesting. I like this bit here. The veterinarian's a lot like Jimmy in that he has underworld connections and does things he shouldn't do. But when he's doing his job, namely being a veterinarian, he cares about it. It's just kind of cool.
I'm guessing our friend didn't refer you to me to get ichthyological advice.
I'm looking for someone with a light touch. I'm not talking some teenager taking a 5-finger discount of string cheese at the Stop and Shop.
After a big success with Mesa Verde, Kim has to break the news to him that there might be a problem with this whole issue with Chuck and Jimmy and the documents, and she does so here.
I hate to be a buzzkill, but there is something you need to hear before we get any deeper in. It's about your former attorney, Charles McGill.
What about him?
Charles has been making some very ugly allegations about his brother.
And here she assures her contact and the person who really brought her the business that this is not going to be a problem for them. I respectfully disagree. I think that it would be a huge potential problem, but that's what happens.
See you at 7.
This McGill thing, you're sure it's not going to be a problem?
I am. Mesa Verde isn't involved in any way, shape, or form.
This is a good bit. This whole episode is heading towards a hearing for Jimmy's law license, basically. And Howard is rightfully trying to talk Chuck out of proceeding with this because he thinks it's going to make both the firm and Chuck look horrible.
What Jimmy did is unconscionable, yes. But one of my jobs is to safeguard the firm's reputation.
This is not the time to worry about how we look. This is about what's right and what's wrong.
Of course, Howard fails to talk Chuck out of it, and he wants to proceed, and here we go.
Know that this recording was evidence in an ongoing legal case. The State Bar believes that once we have presented the facts, the committee will agree that disbarment is warranted for James McGill. Thank you very much.
Kim does her best here to respond to the State Bar, but she's making an emotional plea, not a legal argument. I'm not knocking her. That's really what she's got available to her.
But about two brothers whose relationship, after years of strain, finally broke.
All these bits are interesting, and I think this hearing is really well done within reason. It seems that it's very realistic to me, and that's how these things would go. In this next bit, we have an objection, which looks just like it would in real life. I've never been before the disciplinary committee or the bar or anything on a similar type thing, but I've been to many sort of administrative hearings, and they look like this. This particular one looks like it's got a 3-judge panel, and it's just really well done.
Jimmy's own brother blocked him.
Objection. How are the hiring practices of Hamlin-McGill relevant here?
It's relevant to understand the relationship between these brothers.
We'll give you some leeway, Miss Wexler, but don't stray too far.
Here's another one. The objection is right on point, and it's absolutely correct, given the circumstances of this hearing, and the response to the panel is pretty much what you would expect.
But you can confirm it was due to mental illness, correct?
Objection. Charles McGill's mental health isn't at issue. This is a smear job on the State Bar's upcoming witness, nothing more.
This is not a competency hearing, Miss Wexler.
Mr. Hamlin is not a psychiatric professional. Do you have any questions that would be more germane to him?
If you like any of this content, the best way to support me and the channel is to hit like, subscribe, share with friends, and put some comments in the comment section below. So Jimmy previously set up a witness to show up at this hearing, and he's running late. And that's the basis for this whole situation. That witness is, of course, the guy he hired after talking to the veterinarian.
I'm begging your pardon. The defense requests a moment to review, if we could.
This is a charming bit. Here, Jimmy lets Kim in on what the situation is, and she handles it like a pro.
When you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What are we doing?
Stalling.
While this is all very well done, here's one point where I sort of, it's hard for me to believe, but this show is so well done, they can get away with little departures like this. They're playing the tape, and Jimmy explains why he doctored the documents, and that is to help Kim. Well, she's sitting there representing him. It's a clear conflict. They don't really ever address this, but they sort of imply it, but they don't address it directly. I would not be comfortable with that record in front of the bar panel. It looks like a conflict of interest, and she looks horrible right here because it looks like she's trying to cover up some dirty deeds that kept business in her pocket.
Hamlin, McGill, more like Scrooge and Marley. Kim deserves Mesa Verde, not you, not HHM. She earned it, and she needs it. I did it to help her.
Then Chuck, via his testimony, confirms that same situation. Again, I don't know how you could go through that testimony in front of a bar board and not end up getting, running into problems yourself for a conflict of interest in this circumstance.
I believe it was his hope that the tainted documents would cause the client to become disillusioned with my representation and return to their previous attorney, Ms. Wexler, which I should note is precisely what happened.
Here on direct examination, Chuck says that he was exaggerating the symptoms of his disease, and this sets up some later conflict, but it's very important that testimony is relevant.
But you do sound somewhat unhinged on the recording.
Yes, I understand that, but what you heard was theater, a performance, play acting. I exaggerated the symptoms of my disease to extract the truth.
Here, Chuck actually pays a price for his prior testimony. Jimmy's trying to show that his brother's crazy, which is probably the case. The attorney for the bar objects, and appropriately so, but Jimmy has a great response as a matter of law based upon Chuck's testimony.
Doctor who granted me guardianship for you think this was a physical condition?
Objection. You can't introduce a TEG as evidence. Besides which, the panel has already ruled that Mr. McGill's mental health is not at issue.
No, the state bar opened the door to this on direct when the witness talked about his supposed play acting.
Now, this next bit here is basically an argument from an objection, but it really lays out the best argument for Jimmy in this whole thing. He claims he is lying on the tape to make his brother feel better. Of course, he wasn't lying. He actually did it. But it is the only legal method of really getting out of this thing, and it's the best argument they have to make.
He claims that he lied to me to get me to tell the truth. And I'm telling you, I lied to my brother to make him feel better. Which of us you believe depends on how we all understand the mind of Charles McGill.
So Jimmy has set Chuck up here, and Chuck gets him to bring his cell phone out of his pocket, Chuck eventually takes it and shows that there's no battery in it. All of this is in response to his prior testimony that he could feel things if it would make them sick if it was there.
My cell phone. From this distance, you should feel it. And you don't, do you?
Mr. McGill, you were warned to leave your electronics outside.
It's all right. It's all right.
But here was Jimmy's real trick. Of course, it was hiring that guy to plant the battery on Chuck and show that he is full of it.
I don't know, Chuck. Could you reach into your breast pocket and tell me what's there?
What now?
Again, this is a little dicey. I don't know if I would play that loose in front of a bar board when you're about to lose your license, planting evidence on people. I don't know that you can't do it, but it's definitely sleazy to start with. So it's a risky move, but it ends up effective in this circumstance.
That man in back, his name is Huel Babineau. He's on our witness list. You bumped into him in the stairway. He'll testify he planted this fully charged battery on you over an hour and a half ago.
Hour and 43 minutes.
An hour and 43.
And here Chuck starts to lose it and sort of breaks down over the next few minutes here.
Enough. I submit that Mr. McGill's mental illness is a non-issue. If he were schizophrenic, it wouldn't take away from the fact that the defendant...
am not crazy!
This next bit was a contender for favorite line of the episode because personally I think it's funny, but it's a very dramatic moment. I don't know if they intended it to be funny or not, but it is funny.
He orchestrated it. Jimmy. He defecated through a sunroof. And I saved him.
Finally, Chuck goes completely off the rails and makes a complete jerk out of himself, and that's kind of where we end it.
Stealing them blind. And he gets to be a lawyer? What a sick joke. I should have stopped him when I had the chance. And you have to stop him.
The big takeaway here is that Chuck is awful as usual, but finally it's been exposed to the rest of the world. He's been awful to Jimmy specifically, and maybe Kim and Jimmy and Howard kind of knew it. But here he is making a jerk out of himself in front of the bar and witnesses, his ex-wife, which I didn't focus on, and everybody else. Here at Law Talk, we do a lot of videos answering common legal questions. We also do reviews of law in the movies and then on TV. We also share some of our more interesting cases. We're always putting out new videos. So if you like that, please hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell.